saying is, in order to secure the border over the long haul, you have to deal with the fact that right now it's easier to come illegally than it is to come legally. I mean, it is ridiculous for an immigrant nation to make those incentives that perverse.
Now, there's new momentum among prominent members of the Republican Party when it comes to immigration reform. Key GOP leaders like Governor Jeb Bush and Senator Marco Rubio are helping to push the controversial issue back into the national spotlight. Now, earlier I sat down with the always outspoken Ann Coulter to discuss some conservative solutions to solving America's immigration problem. Take a look. And joining us now to discuss this and more, the one and only Ann Coulter. How are you? Good.
Fine,
welcome back. It's good to see you.
Good to be here.
We keep having these differences. I actually like, as a foundation, a lot of the Rubio plan in this sense. These borders need to be secure.
Right.
Now, there is an addendum that Rand Paul has that I know Rubio likes, and that is that every single portion of the border, once it's secure, and none of this happens until the borders are secure, will first have to be voted on, and that means Republicans will have to put their seal of approval that they believe it's cordoned off. Does that impact you at all?
A little bit. I mean, it's a good idea. Yeah. I actually do think enforcement first. Thus, let's start with enforcement. And I love how the media have sort of convinced Americans that building a wall on the border, well, that's crazy. It's like sending a man to Mars. We can't do that. Why is this treated as something that is so outside of the bounds of rationality? But no, you have to start with enforcement. Legalization, I mean, immediately that means collecting government assistance. That means we're never going to turn around and say, no, you're not going to get citizenship. They're never going to be deported. You don't start with legalization. Also, any children they have are instantly citizens. Legalization first is not enforcement first. But particularly now when we see the absolute bad faith, and forget just on the immigration issue, this is just, you know, liberals going back to their old tricks. They're always trying to release criminals, and that is what Obama has done.
Do you think they're looking at this from a demographic point of view, thinking that the chances are immigrants to this country are more likely to vote Democratic?
Oh, yeah.
That? All right, so if they're doing that, then all right, so
that's the Democrats are thinking that. I hope the Republicans aren't thinking that.
But so if that is what they believe, then don't you have to secure the border first? We agree on that part?
They don't want to secure the border.
I understand, but if Rubio has told me if they don't secure the borders first, he is not on board, period.
But it's over, because his step one is legalize the illegals. Then we demand enforcement, and then we give them citizenship.
I asked him 5 times. Well, do they have to? Well, because what he said is it's a path to a green card. Then
no, but instantly they are here legally. This is a crucial point.
You have to pass a civics test, pay back taxes and fines.
Step one is illegal immigrants are legal. That can't be step one.
Right. But
and by the way, then you will have, I mean, there is no fence in the world that is going to stop the next wave after wave after wave of illegal immigrants if instantly we make the probably 22 million illegal immigrants here.
There's one way you don't have to build a fence. If you keep destroying the economy, the way Obama's destroying it, people aren't coming here for jobs
But we're not going to have Obama forever. And you know, when we get a Republican president, and we don't want him running across the border again. And no, of course you start with enforcement first, but it really has to be enforcement first, not legalize them first and then act as if, well, the one thing they really want is citizenship. No, they want to live here legally. That allows them to collect government assistance. And by the way, our legal immigration system has to be changed too. Since Teddy Kennedy's 1965 Immigration Act, something like 80% of legal aliens to America have come from third world countries. They go on government assistance at a much higher rate than the native born. We have to take care of our native born here.
Let me ask you a political question.
The country is going to sink, and worst of all, from your and my perspective, and I think many of your viewers, the entire country will become California, and no Republican will ever win another election. So I don't understand this idea of trying to make more illegal aliens.
And we've got 50 million people on food stamps, 1 in 6 in poverty. We are in trouble, and we got all this debt on top of it.
I think.
But I want to ask you a political question. This is important. I want your insight. All right, there you go.
About time.
This is important because Obama, we saw him demagoguing all last week.
Yeah.
And the doom and the gloom and the predict. 44 billion of 3.8 trillion is not
right.
Okay. But what I see with the Democrats, they all say the same words Obama: balanced approach, fair.
Right.
You know, It just keeps over and over regurgitating. The children, on and on. All right. Republicans, every Republican has their own little message. There's no message discipline on their part.
This has been a perennial problem for Republicans because they really are individualists. I remember this going back to the impeachment days, how Democrats would say the exact same talking points. You can never get Republicans to say the same things. What you can do is get them to focus on specific points. You are so right about how the Democrats is always, we want common sense gun laws. Well, okay, I want common sense gun laws
can I say one thing addendum to this?
They won't tell you what the plan is.
Reagan, whenever he give a speech, they say, oh, there's the speech again, because Reagan always had the same principles, always gave the same principled speech.
Well, we do have the same principles, but the point is nail the Democrats down on what they mean by common sense when it comes to, for example, to gun laws. How about keeping guns out of the hands of the mentally ill? No, the ACLU won't let us do that. So that is not a common sense gun control law. When it comes to what are we going to do with 11 to 22 million illegal immigrants, granting them amnesty isn't a common sense solution. No, not granting them amnesty. That's a common sense solution, and enforcing E-Verify and building a wall. And the American people are overwhelmingly with Republicans on both of those issues.
All right, Ann Coulter.